I had to witness a hanging, it's a triple hanging. And when I saw the spectacle, they put a black bag over the felon's head, and he has to walk up the steps blindfolded. And I saw this man, his knees buckled, he could hardly walk up the step, and then they put the rope around his neck, and when they pulled that trap, he went into convulsion, and they had to leave him there hanging for over an hour before they can certify that he's really dead. And when I experienced that, I could no longer support the death penalty. I thought it is gruesome, barbaric, and no one should have to go through that.
The death penalty is the most important issue of all. There can be nothing more demanding or more challenging than saving someone from the death penalty.
The Death Penalty Project is there to represent anyone in any jurisdiction who's facing execution.
The team are responsible for saving the lives of hundreds of prisoners and ensuring that many others will never be exposed to the cruelty that is the mandatory death penalty.
The Death Penalty Project can really be summed up in two names, Saul and Parvez, and their dedication to working with people who are alive today who would otherwise not be.
We are lawyers providing free legal representation to prisoners who may be executed or may be sentenced to death.
And in many, many cases they haven't had fair trials, and we provide pro bono free legal representation to people who really need it. They face capital punishment.
I would say, well, because of them, I'm out at this present time. I spent roughly like more than 9 years on death row. It's not a nice feeling because you're just there, you're there on death row. You don't have a date to say, well, you're going home next week, next month, next year, you understand, you're there on death row, and then, you know, anything could happen at them time, because not to say you're on life, you're on death row. Them play the key role in my matter. And I say from time to time they leave from England and come down to Grenada, to the prison. And look at me today, from someone who was on death row, you understand.
The guys who commit those sort of crimes, they're usually so poor that they get involved in something and it ends up in death. And of course, in nearly every case, they cannot afford to pay for lawyers.
It makes the difference between life and death for these persons. On my own resources, I could not afford to do what is required, and so without them, definitely these persons for sure would have been hanged.
They do a lot, you know, for me and for others. I want to help people all over the Caribbean, and I think that them help that caused my freedom. I was in prison for 17 years. At the time, I didn't have no hope. But when I come, it was a great feeling because I said, well, look, we have a little hope. We have hope. But I think that everybody deserves a chance. And yes, it's true that we did something wrong, but that doesn't say that we have to die. Because if it wasn't for them, I want to be out.
It's very inspiring to see the people who live on and then who could have been executed and then walking the streets totally rehabilitated and having a useful and productive life.
So it's not just bringing cases to court, it is more broadly seeking to educate.
The large number of lawyers around the world who they have trained, inspired and supported.
They have been in the forefront in human rights law. And for that, we welcome them here, we work with them.
It's a very respectful collaboration. They are so passionate and convinced and convicted that it really motivates me. And it motivates anyone who they have worked with.
What we're not, of course, suggesting is that people shouldn't be convicted, people shouldn't be sentenced, but what we are saying is that the death penalty in a modern criminal justice system doesn't have a place.
The principles are often much wider than death penalty principles, so they're to do with general human rights principles, principles of fairness and concepts of imprisonment, and these obviously apply to other prisoners, not just death row prisoners.
There's really a much more important story, and that is the evolution of standards through case law, which will lead to the restriction of the death penalty, already have done, and will in the future.
There's still countries where the death penalty needs to be abolished. It's true, quite a lot of them don't execute people anymore. But it's always possible that governments can change and that they can start executions again. That can happen until all the countries of the world have abolished the death penalty. There's a role for the Death Penalty Project.